Hi, I'm Julie, also known as JulieXD, and I recently joined my first ever game jam, which was the GMTK Game Jam 2025. Yeah, so I actually haven't made games since high school, and I was using Unity back then, but I've been hearing about a game engine gaining popularity recently, which is called Godot, and I actually experimented with Godot a little bit back then in 2020, but it wasn't as big as today. And so I want to challenge myself by learning a new game engine while also participating in a game jam. Yeah, I don't know whose bright idea that was because I quickly became burnt out on the third day of the game jam, which I'll talk about why later on. Anyways, this year's GMTK Game Jam theme was Loop. But I couldn't actually think of anything when the theme was announced, and so on the first day of the game jam, I literally doom scrolled until 2 p.m. even though the theme was announced earlier in the morning. Anyways, I eventually came up with my game idea in the shower of all things, and the first thing I thought of with loop was a time loop. Yeah, it's kind of basic, but we can work with it. Anyways, I remember watching YouTubers play this game back then called 12 Minutes. It's a game about a man who is stuck in a time loop where he only has 12 minutes to change the outcome before a police detective breaks into his home and accuses his wife of murder and beats him to death. Basically, I like the idea of having the player do different things to receive a different outcome/ending in a time loop kind of situation. So going into this game, I called my friend for some idea, and he was like, why don't you make a game about someone preparing for their first date, and the reason why they keep rewinding time or starting the day over again is to get the perfect first date. I thought this idea was so cute and decided to go with it. And so that's when I came up with the name called Second First Date. Okay, so on day one, I made a game design document outlining some basic things about the game, and you can pause here if you want to read it, but basically I wanted to make a time loop/rewind story-based game about the MC, which is the frog, trying their best to do everything right to have the perfect first date with their crush, which is Tanuki. And I listed out some milestones I want to accomplish for each day of the game jam, and so on day one, I implemented some basic 2D character movement and made some animations using the animation player and animation tree nodes. By the way, all the sprite packs that I'm using come from Jamie Brownhill on itch.io. Anyway, so I ran into some issues already with the walk and idle animations playing at incorrect times, and then I realized that both their sprites were literally layered on top of each other, and so I just had to add in some code to toggle on and off their visibility, and there you go, now you can walk and idle in my game. On day 2, I sketched out some levels for the game, which includes a bridge level, a forest level, a town level, and a starting area. And this is what the starting area looks like. This is where the player spawns in. And this is the town level. It contains all the NPCs besides Tanuki. And this is what the forest looks like, and this is where the player will be able to collect flowers to impress Tanuki. And this is where the bridge is, and this is where the player will meet Tanuki for their first date. On day 3, I got burnt out from implementing a dialogue system all day because it was the hardest mechanism to code in my game. I also had to figure out how to implement dialogue options for the player to choose from and to make the NPC respond to those options. I also hopped on a Discord call with my friend who helped create the dialogue tree with me. It was a bit frustrating to come up with dialogue since the dialogue system I followed was limited to only 4 or 5 panels before it broke on me. Yeah, so this experience made me not want to touch another dialogue system for a month now. Anyways, here are some of the NPC dialogue I implemented into my game. On day 4, I finished up all the levels and scene transitions, but I kind of brute forced my way by creating variations for each scene depending on the player's progress. The game only has one ending since I underestimated how long it would take to make more than one ending, but I am happy with how it came out. Also, it was about 1:30 a.m. on August 3rd when I finished designing the final parts of my game, which included the main menu, credits, and the ending screen. And it wasn't until 2:30 a.m. when I finished exporting, creating my game's itch.io page, and submitting my game 8 hours before the deadline. I actually would have woken up in the morning to do all of this, but I had to wake up at 8 a.m. for a day trip with my friends. After the game jam ended, there was a voting period where we could play and rate each other's submitted games, which was fun. I ended up placing around the top 5% in the narrative category out of over 9,600 entries, so I think that's pretty good for my first ever game jam, And we don't talk about what happened with the audio category because I was too tired to add an audio at 1:30 a.m. Also, if you want to check out my game, I'll put a link to it in the description. But yeah, I plan on joining the GMTK Game Jam of 2026 in the future, so I'm looking forward to see how much I have improved by then. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.